I'm going to be very brief, so I actually have to run on. First of all, I commend Kechi for all the work that you've been doing. I've had the opportunity to met you recently, and I have to tell you, and I'm saying this, and I say it in private as well, you've inspired me. My name is Bobby Diggy. I'm the Executive Director and Founder of Island Voice. And Island Voice is a community organization based on Staten Island, but we do a lot of international work. And what we do is we deal with youth empowerment and economic and cultural awareness and economic empowerment for underserved communities. I am Nigerian, American born. Unfortunately, I had the opportunity to school in Kaduna, which is in the north, where my first encounter with some of the major social ills in Nigeria, such as religious crisis. So I was there during the Zango Kata riots, where the Muslims were killing Christians, which is some of the other issues that are propelling, the grave issues of the abductions and so on and so forth. I mean, there's a ton of things going on in Nigeria, but I went to school in Kaduna, and then I went to ABU, Medubella University, which is in Zaria. And these places that I mentioned are the hotbed for all of these religious unrest and these abductions and so on and so forth. But what has happened, what good has come of the negative epidemic going on there, is that it's galvanized the Nigerians in the diaspora. There's a lot of us that do civic engagement work and that have gotten to know each other now. And I actually commend that. We've gotten to each recently too, and I admire what you do. And I think it was important for me to come here today, although I just testified at the City Council to help get young folks' voice on the community boards citywide. And why is that important? It's the same vein as what we're talking about. Really empowering our young girls and young men and older adults as well, and giving them the opportunity to continue to be involved in positive civic engagement. This is really, really critical. It's a work I've devoted my life to over a decade now. I'm a business person and a social entrepreneur, but because of the fortune that I've had growing up in a project in Staten Island and having been saved, back in the day when we were growing up, the life expectancy for young male was like 20-something. So that has inspired me to continue to be involved with movements. And because I'm Nigerian and male, we needed to stand up and support all the all the mothers and daughters who were rallying around the city. And it's important that men stand up and speak up, because as you said earlier, I was listening to you, and it is true, because I've lived in the north and I've seen the culture of suppression for women and young girls, and exactly as she said, with girls being put into taken advantage of as maids or even going to school. It's something that we have as men. It would be a shame that we do not continue to amplify the importance of, or raise awareness and amplify the importance of these girls being rescued.
Parents, grandparents, they suffered under the colonialism. They were abused. And then we came to our great grandparents, and they suffered the same thing. And then it came to our grandmothers, the same thing. Then our own grandmothers, our parents, they suffer under the colonialism. How many times are we going to use colonialism? Now we are under our own leaders. In the 60s, African countries, most of us, we got independent. We are under our own African brothers and sisters. Government. They are leaders. But some of them, they don't realize that privilege comes with responsibility. They are our leaders, but some of them, I won't say all, but some of them, they have not done their work to protect their citizens. That is what is happening in Africa now. They call me no-nonsense woman. But that is what I don't care who you are. I will tell you how I feel. As you said, as you said, you refuse to give this group a name. I agree with you. I agree, totally agree with you. I live in Kuwait. For 2 years, I lived in Iraq, Lebanon, Israel, Saudi Arabia, because of the UN during the Gulf War. They have women that are so well educated. I was in the hospitals. I have been in the hospitals where they have women doctors in these countries. They are high-level Muslims. Who can tell me that in the Arab region or in their book, what do you call it, Quran, they have put it down that women cannot have education. Who can tell me? Nobody, because it's not written. And that is the true Muslims. They don't say that you are young, you cannot go to school. Most of these people, their children, they are in school, they send them abroad to have education. Both women and girls and boys. Where is in the Quran saying that a girl cannot have education? And this reminds me, I was talking to my pastor. I go to United Methodist Church on Park Avenue. And when this thing happened, I was so disturbed. And I went there to have them pray for the girls. And my reverend told me, he said, Nana, you know what? In the 50s, 60s, during the apartheid time, the Afrikaners in South Africa, they wrote their own book, Bible, with President Obuta. And they figure it out that what they are practicing is in accordance to Bible. Until the World Council, Churches of Council, they stood up and they said, no, what you are doing is not true. There's nowhere in the Bible saying that black people should be the same, they should be. So now, what is going on in Nigeria? It's all over Africa, but in Nigeria particularly, I'm talking about Nigeria. I am appealing to AU to get up and fight this.
When I first heard about the kidnapping of nearly 300 Nigerian girls who were taken, who were in school to take their finals, I was taken back to my own secondary school days in Ghana. Specifically, I remembered a time what we called staying time, when we, the Form 5 and the 6th Form girls, stayed on campus in the absence of our other schoolmates to prepare for our O-level or A-level exams. These exams were taken by students across West Africa and graded under the rigorous supervision of the West African Examinations Council. The stakes were incredibly high. As far as not only passing these standardized finals, but blowing them, as we used to call them, or acing them, as we used to say. To pass with mediocre marks was almost the same as failing, because it meant you would not be able to secure placement in a respectable school for 6th Form or earn a spot in one of the then 3 universities in Ghana, effectively sealing your caste. Depending on your results, which were posted publicly, you would be divided into about 4 groups. So there was the distinction, which meant you had basically earned all 1s or almost all 1s, which straight A's basically. And the distinction guaranteed admission to the top schools in the country, and depending on how distinct your score or your circumstance, could mean a scholarship to a university abroad. Then there was Division 1, which meant you'd likely gotten a mix of 1s and 2s and maybe an errant 3 or 4, but basically, you did well. Then there was Division 2, which meant your aggregate was between 25 and 36. And Division 3, which meant that you had basically just barely passed or failed. And if you fell into the last 2 divisions, you had to take the exams over again if you wanted to get a good school placement. So as a result of the stakes, there was a thriving exams economy. Woefully underpaid teachers basically charged a semester to a year's worth of fees for prep classes before these region-wide tests, and after for those who had passed poorly or failed. I remember my staying time as a stressful period. It was fraught with all-nighters and desperate attempts at rote memorization, but it was also the most fun I had as a student in Ghana. After 3 years of harassment by certain dorm mates and classmates and adjustment to Ghanaian life, the half of which I alluded to in my novel Powder Necklace, I finally had a small but strong crew of girlfriends. When we weren't studying, we were taking magazine quizzes or talking about boys or braiding our afros in anticipation of graduation, when we would no longer be compelled to keep our hair short, as was the rule in school. We were also imagining the future. It was a beautiful time when the guardrails were pushed so we could venture past certain boundaries. Yes, the lights out bell rang, but no one was enforcing it. Neither was anyone making sure we didn't smuggle food from the dining hall to our dorms or worrying us about attendance. All we had to do was study. Now, this was 21 years ago that I stayed at Infantiman Girls Secondary School, which is where I went. And when I heard the story about the girls at Government Girls Secondary School in Chibok, I imagined them carrying on like we did as students, studying, allowing themselves guilty pleasure breaks, and imagining the possibilities that lay ahead. The idea that this moment on the cusp of completion, accomplishment, and freedom was literally stolen from them rocked me to my core. But in spite of my visceral attachment to the story, I initially kept quiet about it. When such obvious examples of failure and tragedy are exposed in Africa, I'm generally reticent to share my opinion publicly for fear of contributing to or affirming a centuries-long narrative of Africa as a hopeless continent, mired in war, disease, and corruption. The mainstream press has always harped on the negative when it comes to Africa and been less enthusiastic and thorough in its coverage of the good stories. To that end, I've been more prone to highlighting the positive. But when my editor at Ebony.com assigned me to write about the kidnapping in Chibok, I had to acknowledge and point out that this kidnapping was reflective of the ongoing failure of Nigerian leadership and regional governance as well.
Good day, everybody. Good day. As she said, my name is Rahama Makasi, a lady, a woman, a daughter, somebody's mom, a woman with passion for another woman. Yeah, sorry. A lot has been said about today's topic. I don't want to go into it too much, but first of all, I would like to thank Ikechi for bringing up an audience like this. The girl-child issue is something that has been a passionate subject to us. Ikechi called me like 2 or 3 days ago, and she told me about this coming up. I was only told about this like 3 days ago. I look at the subject, I imagine how important it's going to be for us to be here. Why? It's because we are from the hinterland. We are from the epicenter of what is happening. I am from Kano State, a lady and a Muslim. I want to say a religion can be so perfect, but not all followers can be perfect. We are humans. Yeah, so Islam says read, and read is announced to everybody. You have to get knowledge. Knowledge is power, and power is supposed to be disseminated to everybody, being it a lady or a boy. As I said, I was only told about this just 2 days ago, and as it is with the Nigerian culture, I burned out my candle and wrote a 10-page delivery. But I know the Americans don't have such a culture, time. So what I will do is to give you a background of what the girl child goes through. Please, I indulge your patience. The girl child right has, for now, been ignored across African countries, and rapid population growth characterized with poverty and food insecurity has resulted in demand for continuous child labor. As confirmed by the UNICEF, trafficking of girl children for the purpose of domestic service, prostitution, and other forms of exploitative labor remains a widespread phenomenon in Nigeria. The rights of most Nigerian children are far from being respected, despite the country's signing of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child since 1999, and the African Union Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child in Nigeria signed in 2001. Over 10 million children's rights are reportedly being grievously violated by either the state or their parents. The 86 per 1,000 live birth infant mortality, the under 5 years mortality of 136 per 1,000 live births, the education enrollment ratio of 76%, the net attendance ratio of primary education of 62%, with net school completion rate of 12% and 15 million child labor of the Nigerian child is highly unacceptable. This is a typical case of the Nigerian child. Since the ratification of child rights by the National Assembly of Nigeria in 2003, major rights of children, especially in northern Nigeria, are uncovered with their rights at the mercy of the legislators. Civil society, which is my NGO, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy, CISLAC, observed that only 20 out of 36 states that make up the states of the Nigerian Federation have passed the Rights Act in their various states. The remaining 16 states of the Federation that are yet to pass the Child Rights Act are predominantly states from the northern Nigeria. In Nigeria, particularly northern Nigeria, has some of the highest rates of early marriage in the world. The Child Rights Act passed in 2003 raised the minimum rate of marriage of girls to be 18 years. However, federal law may be implemented differently at the state level, but to date, only few of the country's 36 states have begun developing provision for the execution of this law.
My name is Dahiru. Actually, I would say unfortunately, I'm from Borno State, the home of Boko Haram, and then it is unfortunate because these are our brothers and sisters that have been affected. It is also our responsibility to make sure we fight it and follow the course to solve the issues with Boko Haram. So I would start by telling you a little bit about myself as well. My name is Tahir Biu. Biu is a town, it's a royalty, it's a royal entity itself, which I hail from, but I'm an American citizen born in Pittsburgh by my parents that came all the way from Biu to go to school here. Boko Haram started when I was back in Nigeria. I think Boko Haram has existed over a decade now. I have clear understanding of Boko Haram. And then I was in it. And then apart from being in the Boko Haram region and the Boko Haram state, I was also part of some governmental relations back in Nigeria that would have had a dialogue with Boko Haram before it escalated. So starting from Biu, I am part of the royal family as well. I have connections with the Emir of Biu. My dad is the Mutawalli of Biu. I am set to be the next in throne to pick up the Mutawalliship of Biu, which is a kingmaker who decides to become the king and the member of the Emirate Council. But Borno State at large is the zone that originates from Nigeria that has majority of Kanuri-speaking people, of which that I understand. Biu people speak Barbu. Chibok people speak a little of my language. I hear what Chibok people say, and I speak the same way as Chibok people do. So these are my sisters that have been adopted. I've been affected. And then my responsibility as an American working with Nkechi, we really appreciate her effort. And my council in Washington, D.C. has sent me out here to deliver the messages out here. And then I am totally disturbed about the Boko Haram issue itself. Boko Haram started a few years ago when my dad was in the government as well, and I was a personal assistant. And to tell you here, I have a cousin that has been a Boko Haram member as well, unfortunately, and we lost him, I think, because we don't know his whereabouts. So if I'm talking about Boko Haram, I don't think 5 hours will be enough. But I think with these girls abducted, our mission and vision now is not only for Boko Haram, but it's all for Nigeria at large. We are fighting. We are now working with the US, with the White House on policy matters to make sure we bring this to an end. We are advising the US government on policy matters to make sure we end this saga with Boko Haram.
I've met some of you during the International Women's Programs, because I'm always here, as we organize the Nigerians in the Diaspora program in partnership with United Nations Women's Forum. And what do we do when we get there is to talk about the problems in our country, Nigeria. And have we been able to help in solving the problem? No. They would come listen to us. It's like, oh, all these grammar-speaking people, we will speak and we will go. I'm seeing a lot of movement, and it's like people would like to go. However, in our last program in 2012, we focused on this idea of eliminating violence at all levels. Have we eliminated violence at all levels on women? No. Many of you must have been reading some of the stories in the United States where men, Nigerian men to be specific, were killing their wives in America. They are in jail, quite all right, but the women are dead, but they are in jail. So they carried that culture of their violence into the United States, where they know that, okay, if I kill my wife because she's a nurse and she's not giving me the money, I'll go to jail. So they are in jail. Some of our programs, when we meet, actually, it's nothing else but to, we've been focusing on trying to bring to the awareness of people the problems in our country, especially where we want to advocate action
for essential human progress, transformation at all levels, so that life will be good, and also to stop the unjust practices and discriminatory acts aimed at retarding the progress of women and girls. That's what we've been talking about. That's what we see every day. When we were, after the 2012 events, we traveled to Nigeria in 2012, July, for the Nigerians in the Diaspora program we do in Nigeria. We were attacked by some women, and guess what? They said to us, if our girls who are hawking, if you haven't seen children hawking, you won't understand what we are talking about. We are talking about young girls from ages 5 through 11, carrying bananas on their head, peanuts on their head, carrots on their heads, apple on their heads, hawking for you and I to buy, okay? And when are they doing this? During school period. That shows you that they are not in school. And when you see them, they are usually on bare feet with tattered clothes. And these are promising young girls who, if they are sent to school, could become what we call leaders of tomorrow. And their mothers would say to us, oh, if you are advocating for our children to stop hawking, because the proceeds from the hawking is what helps us in the family, what do we do? Are you going to take us to America with you? You come here and demonstrate and talk about these things that should be stopped. What are you going to do in order to help us? Do they have a legitimate question there? Yes. Do we have a solution to their problem? No. Is the government looking into that question? Yes. The woman is right, because that little girl, 6, 7, and 8, who is hawking banana, could bring in like 500 naira a day. And 500 naira, I'm telling you, is not up to $5. It's not up to $5. But they can use it to buy groceries for the day. So the mothers are asking, if you take these girls away, what are we going to do? So we now go back to the government to make a presentation of the solution to what we think they should do to help these women. The government will listen to us talk, and at the end of the day, we go home and nothing happens. When they say that women are marginalized, it is not only us here or the non-working class or the working class. Marginalization stems from even the top to the bottom. 3 years ago, we had a female woman speaker of the House. She was alleged to have stolen 684 million naira, our money, the Nigerian money. And immediately they impeached her and drove her out. So she left. Guess what? The next speaker that came happens to be a man. And he was alleged to have stolen 2.1 billion, 5.2 billion, and 9.1 billion. But guess what? He was still in the office. So when we went to Nigeria during one of our visits, I questioned, we visited the House of Assembly, and I questioned that issue. Why was a woman removed immediately, and a man who has stolen 20 times more than what they allege she stole is still in office? And guess what? That type of confrontation is rare where I come from. That type of confrontation is never done by our media. You know why? Because they will send thugs to close the media house. They will arrest the journalist who asked the question and just put him in jail for as long as they feel. But do you know why I came back free? Because I live here, because I'm a citizen of this country, because I was in a hotel, and as soon as the question was asked, I was asked to leave the hotel. I switched to hotel. I have to go to another hotel because people are afraid that they could be planning something for, who is this woman from the United States? Because all the papers, all the media, that night, I was all over it. My face was on TV. Oh, she asked the question. She embarrassed the speaker. Not that they were castigating me, no, they were just saying it as they would want others to listen and hear and say, how dare she, you know, because that is the country where we come from. We have been talking about the girl child. Believe me, the girl child is the most marginalized group of children in the world. And when we presented a program, we were able to let them understand that we have a case to make against the girl child. Let me just read you what we told the government. And we said, Nigeria, like most developing countries, have not accorded the girl child the national rightful place in the scheme of human development. The girl child is not the Nigeria's priority. In many Nigerian cultures, rather, if you are lucky to overgrow your girl child scenario and get into the university. Nobody cares how you do it. These girls are shortchanged. They are victimized and stereotyped as domestic slaves and labor providers. The girl child has become victims of female trafficking across local and international borders, denied access to education, but are forced into early motherhood through pregnancy, where a good number of them die while attempting abortion or in the course of malnutrition. Some are infected with HIV and other venerable diseases. Others are forced into arranged marriages to douse the traditional taboo. You know, it's a taboo for you to have a child outside wedlock while you are still living in your parents' house. The Nigerian girl is doomed to oppression and destruction, abused, exploited by parents, guardians, and as all they do is working, providing house help, being nannies in order to improve the family financial situations. I want you to go home with this picture in your mind, that the girl child, whether we are talking about them in America or in Nigeria, it doesn't matter. We need help. What do we do?
In the culture, we always ask permission to speak from the oldest person in the room. And I'm going to ask, I'm sure with all of you collectively, may I have permission to speak? We have a campaign that we want to bring to your conscience. We launched it last week at the United Nations by a male child from Mexico because he overheard a conversation that I was giving to young people. We were talking about violence against women. And I said to them, let me start with myself. And I told them about a case that I sued Walt Disney for $1 billion against Sister Act. I said to the children, to the young people, it's not about just sexual violence, spiritual, intellectual, emotionally, and I went on to describe all form of violence must stop. All form of violence to the young people. The young son in Mexico went back, a male child, as I would say again. The campaign that has been launched, and you can go out on the website, is called He for She. That's what it's called, He for She. Talking about equality and for men to stand with the woman. And I ask that you go out and join this campaign. Archbishop Desmond Tutu has joined the campaign. The Secretary General, Ben Ki-moon, has joined the campaign. Yesterday we launched the campaign in Harlem at Convent Baptist Church and our Lord's Catholic Church. Our Lord's Catholic Church and Convent Baptist Church. It was launched in Harlem yesterday. In Governor's Island, the young people went there. He for she. You had artists, about 25,000 of them, for 2 days, and Governor's Island. He for she was launched in the festival for artists from around the world. And I want to leave it with you. We must do a plan of action, a solution to the problem is what we need. Talking about it, it will not go away. And I had the opportunity to send my note to the head of state and to the people of Nigeria. I have requested, as the Queen Mother, and I am born on the independence of Nigeria, so that's home for me. I have requested in solidarity to be with the mothers and to be there until our girls come home. So I ask you to go out and look at a best practice or join some group in the struggle for all form of violence against women, stop, and against mothers, stop. And I thank you, and may God continue to hear our prayers and answer us. I thank you.